One of the things that really bothered me as I was growing up in the 60s and 70s was listening to all the reports coming out in the news about the various identical twin studies that were being made, looking at diseases to figure out if they were genetic or they're not genetic. So they use identical twins to find out if the disease was genetic. That means both of them would have the disease, or if they didn't, then it would be a non-genetic disease. And as time went on, I noticed these non-genetic results that they came out with had similar statistics for ailments like schizophrenia, alcoholism. They also did them on homosexuality and many different types of conditions that they thought might be genetic. And after I finished my master's degree, I started spending a little bit more time looking into these subjects. I had asked my statistics professor about the statistics coming out of these studies, and they were really quite interesting. For instance, in a schizophrenia study, they found that when one identical twin had schizophrenia, there was a 50% chance that the other identical twin had schizophrenia. And that a fraternal twin, so a twin born at the same time but not the same genetics, had a 20% chance of having schizophrenia. And then a sibling, which was not born at the same time, had a 10% chance of having schizophrenia. And then the parents had a 1% chance of having schizophrenia. So with all of these various steps in statistics, I sat down with my statistics professor and said, doesn't it make sense that it takes more than just two variables to define these statistics that we see in these studies? And he said, yeah, I'd looked at this many years ago to see if there was cross-correlation between the variables, but I didn't really go into much more depth. What I found out is that it takes 5 independent variables to define those statistics that were coming out of these studies. And up until now, and even today, medicine is only concerned with 2 of those variables, and that is our genes and our environment that we grow up in. But the statistics show that there's 3 other variables that are required to show the differences that we see in these identical twin studies. One of them has to do with the time that you were born, and that explains the difference between the fraternal twins and the siblings. Since they're born at different times, fraternal twins are always born at the same time, the siblings are not. That's the only difference statistically between them. So there's a time factor that's involved that is independent of all the other factors. The other variable, which was quite interesting to me, and that is that there is a family variable that is independent of genes. That shows up in the cases like infidelity, child abuse, alcoholism, where it makes sense that those are traits that are passed down without genes being attached to them, because they are traits that stay in families that you may know. That these conditions go on year after year, generation after generation. And then the final variable, which is the difference between the identical twin and the fraternal twin. So if it's not a genetic variable, what is the difference between a fraternal twin and a identical twin. And that is something that I call as a identity variable. And that means that identical twins look the same, and they're always the same sex, where fraternal twins don't have that. Over time, fraternal twins look just like siblings. They don't necessarily look alike. And this close, intimate relationship that identical twins have is powerful. You see with various studies that identical twins have the ability to heal each other and also have the ability to make each other sick because of this strong interpersonal relationship that they share. And that's something I've also shared with certain married couples, have that strong interpersonal relationship which allows them to heal each other and also to make each other sick. So this was my first step into spirituality, looking for the reason behind these differences that we see in the identical twin studies, and some of them are spiritual. They're passed down secrets from generation to generation. They're also the time that you were born. I mean, the stars do matter when you're born. They don't matter that much, but they do matter. You can't change it, but it's good to know it. So this was my entry into the spiritual teachings that I went on learning later, and found out that there are many other forces involved in the human condition other than just our upbringing and our genetics. And that's why I think it's so important to bring these teachings to young parents, that they know that their children have spiritual influences on them, and that they should try and use those to help those children be as successful as possible in life.